We are committed to creating a safe and supportive space for our guests and listeners, and to provide information and tools that will help our listeners understand, manage, and overcome trauma. We understand that the healing journey can bring up challenging emotions. Therefore, we want to warn our audience that certain episodes may contain discussions or stories that could be triggering for some individuals. The content of the podcast is for educational and informative purposes only, and we encourage you to practice self-care and discretion while listening, and to reach out to a trusted support system or professional if you feel overwhelmed and need help on your healing journey. And thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited. I say this with every podcast, and I really mean it, everybody. I really am excited. I really am, because every podcast just brings great information out there that's going to help people. And in your case, you are a parent coach. And
Yes.
I follow you on LinkedIn. So I've seen a lot of your work, and I love what you have to do. And what you do is you help parents with their trauma, which helps
Yes.
them with their parenting skills. And as I said before we got started on the podcast, I'm recognizing that in my life, and I'm an
Mhm.
open book, and I can certainly talk about it. But let's
Mhm.
start first with hearing from you about you.
What do you want to know? What do you want to know?
I want to know how you got started in this. What happened? Like, you clearly
Okay.
saw a vision.
Yes, I did. I did. So I've gone through over the last 4 years a lot of challenges. So like my husband had depression, my ex, and and I'm a counselor, right? I'm a school counselor. So like
Mm,
I really tried to help him, but in the end, he left me, and it was really hard because I really held on to that relationship, and still love him, but it wasn't healthy. It wasn't a healthy marriage. In fact, it was dysfunctional and toxic. And I realize now, like, that it was God's protection because I have my boys. I have two boys. Um, one's 24, one's turning 14. They're 10 years apart.
oh
And
my gosh, you do not look like you would have a 24-year-old son. Oh my goodness, you look so young.
thank you, thank you.
Oh,
And yeah, they fill me up, but I didn't realize, like, because I was so concerned about my husband, right, at the time,
mm-hmm.
and helping him and getting trying to help him get better. I didn't realize that what we were living was not good for my children. And I feel like I didn't put enough boundaries in. Anyway, so my journey brought me to a place of really leaning into God and praying. And I actually did pray for my ex-husband, like, for 4 years. I asked God for his healing, like, to help me. But God says on earth we have our own, we have choice. And if we choose not to be healed,
Mm-hmm.
then we won't be healed.
Yep.
And so I came to that revelation like this year. Um, God revealed that to me. But over that time, I was really aware that what I wanted to be, like how I wanted to be with my children. And God kept reminding me, like, your children are your priority now, taking care of them. And so, because my life was like turned upside down
Mm-hmm.
with the ending of my marriage, I I asked God, what is my life now? How do I serve you? What am I supposed to do? And his words were so clear. He said, I want you to be part of the healing of this world.
Mm-hmm.
And it hit me in the soul, in the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those words. Because I came from pain. I came
Yeah.
from a very dysfunctional childhood. And I had to get healing, right? I had to get
Yeah.
healing so that
Yeah.
I could be good for my kids.
Right.
And so then that was kind of like the mission. And the more I talk about this childhood pain, the more I discover many of us had childhood pain. Like, growing up, I thought it was just me. But
Yeah.
now I'm realizing many people, many adults, um, suffered from childhood pain, different varying degrees of childhood pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that I realize that actually that does affect our parenting. I know that it affected my parenting with my first, and I really had to. um, decide that I was going to be aware what I was doing and try and change it because I didn't want my children to experience the pain that I felt growing up because I realized that it affected my adult life. Like, because I grew up in dysfunction, I attracted relationships in my adult life that were not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mission is like to teach parents how to be healthy, like to heal, learn what is healthy and what is not healthy, and teach that to our children so that our children attract healthy relationships,
Mm-hmm.
not unhealthy ones.
And you can break that generational cycle as well.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it can be done. I'm doing it. I know other people that are doing it.
Me too, and it's interesting because your story and my story are very parallel because my first husband, my son's father, he suffered from depression and there was a lot there. And I spent 30 years with him though. Yeah. And we came together, we were both unhealthy, and the dysfunction in the marriage was both of us. There was a lot going on with him and more going on with him, but I absolutely contributed to it. And, when I've talked about, I started my healing journey at 19. And at 19, I also considered not having children because I did recognize that I was abused and I did understand that abuse carries on. And it broke my heart because I wanted 3 children. I wanted a family really bad. And I worked with God on that one too. And, he blessed me with one son. He trusted me with one son.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of things I did right and a lot of things I did to protect him. And I recognize that. But what I also recognize is there was also abuse. And it wasn't abuse directed at him, but it was the home that he lived in. And the home that he lived in was parents that were screaming at each other
Yes.
and chaos. And there was always an underlying thread of strife.
Yes.
And I was absolutely in survival mode. And so my tolerance was very low, as you could imagine. And so when anything would happen, it was over the top for me. And so I raised my son in that home and I recognize that. And there's a lot of things I did do to protect him. And there are a lot of things I did do different, but that's a big one. And I recognize that. And I actually had a conversation with him recently and apologized.
Uh-huh.
And my son is so sweet. He's like, Mom, there's so many things you did right. And he reaches over and he's trying to comfort me. And I'm like, honey, this is for you.
Yes.
I'm apologizing to you. You owe me nothing. And we've always had a really close relationship and I know that's helped him, but our lives are very parallel. Unfortunately I didn't get a second shot with another kid, but I have grandchildren though, and
I
I
I
definitely
was going to say
I have
grandkids.
awesome
That's awesome.
grandkids. And so I've
That's
got
great.
I've got another shot there, and
Yeah.
and it's brought my son and I even closer. And and as I become aware of stuff, that's the thing, is becoming aware of it. It
Yes.
goes, I'm able to talk to him. And the one thing I wanted to bring up, I'm not going to dominate this conversation, but one thing I
That's
did
okay.
want to bring up is
I want to hear it.
also that the trauma that we went through some of it wasn't really considered trauma. Like, we didn't have this real
Yes.
clear abuse. Kids weren't protected and there just wasn't
Yes.
that talk. And now we are very aware. And I wish we had like one guide that showed what all the abuse is, because there's a lot.
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah, I do talk about it like because um that's why I use the word pain because it's not necessarily that you were abused,
Or
but
trauma.
yeah, or trauma. It could be that maybe your parents were super busy and working all the time, and they couldn't give you what you needed, like the
Hmm.
attention, the love. Maybe you didn't feel love because nobody was there to give it to you, right?
Hmm.
That's a form of childhood pain. Or you could have suffered the death in a family, right? Like a grandma or someone close to you, and that really affected you, and you still carried that because you never really processed the
Hmm.
grief from that experience, right? So these are all things that we carry into our adult lives until we go through the healing process bit. right? And recognize, okay, this is why I think this way, or this is why I feel this way when I'm in this situation, because
Hmm.
it was something I experienced in my childhood. And those messages are still carrying forth in my adult life, you know? And
Right.
it does take time. It does take time to really delve in and become aware. Like even with me, like, you know, I have like just recently I did a post about someone saying that I was beautiful. And
Yeah.
that word was like a trigger for me because my mom always said my cousin was beautiful, but she never said I was beautiful. And so
Oh.
I never felt beautiful. I never felt like I was beautiful, you know? And then I had to go back and process that. Like, what
Hmm.
is it with that word that you don't feel that? Why is it that you don't feel that? And then I
Right.
had to go through thinking about it, thinking about, well, you know what? You're not that little girl anymore. And you can say, yeah, I am beautiful. Thank you. You know,
Yeah.
instead of denying it, right? Instead of
Right.
like going backwards or reliving the messages that you gave yourself when you were a child, you know?
Until that trauma is healed, you're going to keep reliving it. And when you get triggered, you go right back to that. Your body goes right back to that place. It's you're reliving that trauma again. And that's really what a trigger is it's just kind of, triggering that emotion and taking you back to that place.
Yes, yes. Now, Lisa, did you grow up with yelling?
Yeah. Yes. By my mom and my brother. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Screaming in the house. Yeah.
So I had the same experience. My parents, they had like very volatile arguments, and
Mm.
they yelled at each other, and they yelled at us. And for me, like that's a trigger. So when I hear someone yelling, I just go into this freeze mode,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. If
It's
I'm out in public and I
very,
hear raised voices, yeah, I'm automatic. I'm still on alert. And I think that will always be there to just kind of catch your attention, but yeah, panic. One of the ones I talk about is and this sounds silly, but like when you go to get your tires changed or you're at a garage for your car, and I won't go in those garages, and I don't even want to be near them when the guys are yelling and all the noise, because growing up, whenever my brother worked on his car in the garage,
yeah.
he always got mad, he always got frustrated, tools would go flying, he would start screaming, and then he would come in the house. So that is still, I can manage it and I know where it comes from, but that's not something I don't think I'll ever be comfortable with.
No, no, no. It's very unsettling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
And
how do
I
you help? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and I think you're more like when you've grown up with that, when you've grown
Yeah.
up with this childhood pain, you're a lot more sensitive to those things
Yeah.
than you would be otherwise.
That's true. Because other people can go, my husband can walk into the garage. It doesn't bother him one bit, even when he's working on the garage. And I've got one of the most mellow husbands in the world, you know, it's still, it just, it is what it
Yeah,
is. But
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's
yeah,
an example.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So
Okay,
tell us how you help parents. So,
okay. So I have a program. It's called the Masterful Parenting Program, and it covers three things. So the first thing is our childhood pain, healing from it, right? Recognizing when it's showing up in our parenting, and actually like
mm,
telling the story. Because sometimes, a lot of times, we keep it inside and we don't tell the story.
oh, true. That's so true.
Right? And we have part of the healing journey is that we have to tell our story because then it no longer lives inside of us, right?
Hmm.
We've released it. And maybe part of it is like if you feel that you can, if you have the courage, you may want to have a conversation with those who hurt you when you were a child, right? I do share that I did actually have a conversation with my mom. Oh, and by the way, like my mom and I get along well now.
Oh, that's
My
awesome.
Yeah, my mom has apologized so many times.
Oh, that's
But
wonderful.
mom, you already apologized. We don't have to keep living this.
Oh, bless her heart. Oh,
Yeah, but I do share those stories because I want parents to know that I had to tell her because when I was growing up, I didn't feel like I had a voice.
Mhm.
I was given the message that your opinion doesn't matter, or we don't have want to hear from you. And you're a child that children need to be seen and not heard.
Oh, yes.
That was a huge, huge message in my family.
Mhm.
And so when I became an adult, I realized I don't want to speak up. I don't I have a hard time giving my opinion, or I don't even know my opinion. Maybe I should
Oh,
ask everybody
that is so true.
because it's told what to think and how to be, right? And so
Right.
yeah, so it took a while. And then I realized like I was 30 and I said, okay, enough of this. I need to confront my mom in a gentle way, in a way that's not blaming, but
Mhm.
share my experience with her. And it was actually really great. She she didn't deny it, but she did try to defend herself.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
natural.
yeah, and I do say to parents, you can say you can give all the reasons why you didn't
Mhm.
get what your children needed to them, but your job is to give our children what they need. And
And we
so
need to
no.
listen to their perception of what they
Yes,
perceived.
exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, so the first component is like tell your story. If you're brave enough, if you're not comfortable telling your story, you can journal it,
Mhm.
right? That's a first step. And then as you feel stronger, you might want to have that conversation with the people that hurt you if they're still in your life, right?
And it's safe, right? Because
And it's safe.
sometimes
If
it's
you
not
feel
safe. Yeah.
Yeah, if you feel safe enough, definitely you could go for counseling. I actually did get counseling, so you
Mhm.
could go for counseling. You could talk to a really good friend that you feel safe with, or anybody, your partner, your spouse. You can just unleash the story, so it's not in you anymore. And then from there, we talk about how do we change things with our kids, right? Because we can give our kids what we didn't get as children. And so if you didn't get attention, you give the attention to your children. If you didn't feel like you were heard, you ask your kids, what do you think? You're changing the way you grew up with your own children,
Mhm.
right? Because you know your story now and you know what was missing. And now you can give that to your kids. So it's connection. So I go over how do we connect with our children, and then we talk about communication because there is actually. I'm very fortunate because I've had like over 15 years of talking with teens, and so I really understand how to communicate with them
Mhm.
in a way that's going to touch the hearts, right? In a way where they're going to feel valued, where they're going to want to listen to you, where
Feel
you're
safe.
yes, that's safe, all of
Mhm.
those things. And so that's what I teach parents as well. I say we can learn how to communicate with them without punishment. We actually don't need punishment. I honestly, I'm bragging, but my children have never been punished
Mm.
because I'm a relational parent. I build relationship with them so that they want to comply with me, right? I will appeal to their senses. So what do you think? Do you think that's safe? Do you think that's a good idea? So that they stop and reflect, right?
That's teaching
Um,
them how to manage their life. My daughter-in-law does that with her kids, and I've always admired her since they were tiny, tiny. And she's teaching them how to manage their emotions, how to manage life. That's teaching them.
exactly, exactly. And then we don't have to do unhealthy things with our kids,
Mhm.
like punish them or
Mhm.
yell at them or ground them or take away things, right? We can have a conversation. What do you think will help? Because what you're doing right now is not good for you, honey.
Mhm.
So how do we change that? How can I help you with that? And then you're building allegiance with them, partnership with them, right? And they feel supported and loved. If they are connected with you, they know that you have their best interests in mind. And so then they're going to listen. Like you're going to listen to someone who cares about you, right? And so if you're giving the messaging that I love you, I care about you. In fact, I tell parents, start with a feeling statement. I love you. You know I love you, right? But I'm worried about what's happening. You know, I noticed that you have like this is vaping is really common now with teenagers. So
Mm.
like I saw a vape in your backpack and I'm concerned about it. What's happening, honey? And you provide that safe environment where they can talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without judgment. You're not
Right.
saying what you're doing is so bad and you shouldn't do that. This is our upbringing. Our upbringing is
Yeah.
so bad and you shouldn't do it, right?
And
I,
stop
I
it.
yes, stop it. What are you doing? Like you're so
Mm-hmm.
dumb, right?
Yeah.
That
Not getting to the root cause of why I'm doing that.
yes, like having a conversation with your children
Mm-hmm.
about about their actions, right? And appealing to them, appealing to their hearts and so that they get the message that you're coming from a place of really caring about them
They're
and
going to feel
wanting
valued
them
and heard.
valued and heard. I say I say there's three components to a healthy relationship that we need to know so we can teach our children to feel to be seen
Mm-hmm.
so you're not ignored, right? To feel heard. So when you tell me something, I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to try to help you or help you achieve that goal or whatever it is that you're telling me. And to feel supported.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really want to learn how to play piano, mom. Okay, let's see how can we make that happen, right? Those kinds of things. That's supporting your children in their interest, in their what they want to do with their lives,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because you know, my brother was really discouraged. He wanted to join football in high school. My mom discouraged him. She said, "No, no, no, I don't want you to come home with any broken bones," like overprotective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so even to this day, like my brother's in his 50s, and he's like, I wish mom let me play foot
Yep.
because then I would have grown up with like fitness in my life. I would have been active, right? And so
Yeah.
those are the things that we have to do. We have to listen to our children when they want to do things, right?
You know what's interesting is it's crossing my mind. I've never thought about this before as we're talking about this, but even though there's an age gap between you and I, it sounds like we were raised the same where, shh, be quiet, you can be seen, but you can't be heard and all of that. And not having a voice, which is common. It was common for kids, but it's certainly common for those that were in pain or certainly childhood abuse. The
Yes.
voice got shut down. I mean, I learned real quick to keep my mouth shut, to keep myself out of trouble. Um, but it's like, okay, so if we raise the kids that way, right? When are they going to
Yeah.
get their value? When are they going to learn to do that? They're going to go into their adult life, which is what I did, right?
Hmm.
And have
Yes.
no value and not have a voice. When
Yes.
are they supposed to get it? If we don't
Exactly.
teach them, when are they going to get it if we don't teach them?
Exactly. I'm gonna tell you, like I've been a relational parent for many, many years, right? And I really started with my oldest. Um, and because of that, because of me being relational with them throughout their childhoods, they are both so confident. Like they have
Hmm.
confidence I never had. You
Yeah,
know,
my son
my
too.
so confident.
Yeah, my son has a voice.
Yes.
He has a voice and he doesn't hold back. And I'm so proud of him because it is the complete opposite of me.
Yes. Yeah.
And I love that. And so as you're saying this, a relational parent, I can see how I had that with my son, even though,
Mhm.
you know, where I say that there was abuse is that in that he was in a home where there was parents screaming at each other. We didn't go
Mhm.
after him.
Yes.
So I mistakenly thought, oh, I'm not abusing my son. I don't have him in an abusive situation where I did, but I definitely like we've always had a close relationship that he knows he could always come to me for anything, so I did that right.
That is impressive. Like honestly,
I know,
that
right?
that really, really is key. Uh, because we're giving our children what they need, right? They need relationship. They crave relationship, even when they're teenagers. Like I tell parents this all the time in, as a school counselor, I say, Our teenagers still want relationship with us.
They do. It's just different. It's just
It
different,
is.
right?
Hmm.
It's a different
Exactly.
relationship.
Exactly. But they also want they want freedom. They want to be heard. They don't want to be stifled in their growth. Like they don't want to be overprotected.
Right.
They still want to be given opportunity to grow up, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's when we try to stifle them that that's what breaks relationship, right?
And
Because now I have to hide that I'm going out with my friends.
right, right. And it's just like the failure thing. I never remember names. I'm not really good at this. Sarah Blakely,
Mhm.
she created Spanx, right? She's a creator of
Yes,
Spanx,
yes.
right? And I remember her saying that, and I love this. And I told my son this. I said, I wish I did this with you. Is that every night when they sat down for dinner, her dad wanted to hear what failures they had that day
Oh,
because he didn't look at failure as bad. He looked at it,
yes,
you tried, you failed, but you tried.
yes.
And I was raised very different. You don't fail, and there's shame in failure. And so I remember when I realized that, and I told my son about it, and he has a little guy, he's less than 2 years old. And he's like, ah, I said, I wish I did that with you, honey. I mean, it's not that he had a lot of success. So it wasn't that I um, punished him for failure, but we didn't talk about that. Like, it's okay
Yeah.
to fail.
Mhm,
It means you're
mhm.
trying,
Yes, exactly. You're one step closer to succeeding.
even though it doesn't feel like it, but you're right.
It doesn't feel like it. Exactly, exactly.
So let me ask you this. What are the top three things a parent should do or not do with their children?
Um,
It's a good one, huh?
yeah, it's really, really good. I think the first thing is we have to recognize when we're being unhealthy with them. And in order to do that, you need to know what's healthy and what's not healthy. And it's your
Correct.
job to find, like when you've grown up in an unhealthy environment, like you and I have, we had to learn what's healthy
I
because
know.
that wasn't our experience. Our
Mm-hmm.
experience wasn't healthy relationships. It was unhealthy relationships, right? And so we have to learn because we didn't learn it
Right.
what is healthy and what is unhealthy. And those three components that I talked about, like to be seen, to be heard, and to be supported, uh,
Mm-hmm.
those are the three components to a healthy relationship. And you have to give them all three for the relationship to be healthy. Okay. So the first starts off with you got to be healthy because when you're not healthy, you're not going to be healthy with your kids.
Mm-mm. No.
Right.
If your foundation isn't healthy, your house isn't going to be healthy.
Exactly. So you got
Mm-hmm.
to work on yourself. You got to work on your self-esteem. You got to work on your insecurities. You got to work on feeling good about yourself. When you feel good, you're going to be healthier, right?
And
It's when you're
and
sad that you're not healthy.
yeah, and the whole and reacting, right? And being careful on your
Reacting.
reactions.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, a lot of the mistakes that parents make is thinking that they have to direct and tell their kids all the time everything that they need to do. Like this is controlling. I grew
Mm-hmm.
up in this kind of environment, very controlling environment. But we don't have to. In fact, the power is in asking, not telling.
Mm-hmm.
If you can just change that part, instead of like, because a lot of parents complain that, oh, my kid won't do the dishes or a lot of chores, right? Like, how come they don't help out with chores? But I said, because you're telling them, you're saying, do the dishes, rake the leaves. You're telling them what it would be like if you asked them, honey, do you think you could help me with the dishes? Because like I'm really busy with whatever you need to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a different conversation because we don't like to be told what to do.
That's
Like
true.
we want to be involved and we want to feel important. We want to feel like it matters and that we have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're being controlled, we don't have a choice. And then we do it with resentment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not with this healthy kind of compliance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a big thing that parents do. And they grew up with parents that told them what to do. And so they do that with their kids. They're always
Mm-hmm.
telling. I told him he shouldn't do this. I told him he shouldn't do that. And really, you're having no impact on your child except resentment because they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be told all the time. It breaks relationship actually with
Yeah.
your so I say don't tell, ask, don't tell. Ask, don't tell. That is really, really, really important. And then I just feel like um all kids need to feel uh your unconditional love.
Mhm. Separating the who from the do. Have you ever heard me say that?
Yes, it's
So
so
you
good.
so you separate what they do. You love them no matter what, unconditionally. You may not
Yes,
love what they do, but you have to separate that.
yes. And so we want all of us want to be loved unconditionally because we're going to have bad days. We're going to have days where we're not ourselves, we're grumpy. We are doing things that we don't normally do because we're not feeling particularly good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we still want our partner to love us. We still want our families to love us. And that's unconditional love. Unconditional love is even when you're having your worst moments, I'm going to love you. Even when you're tantruming and embarrassing me in the grocery store, I'm still going to love you. Right?
Yep, exactly. Exactly. I still love you, honey. I'm not loving
All
what you're doing right now.
yes, but all of us need that. All of us
Yeah,
need that because that creates safety.
right.
That that allows us to be really who we are and not like be our authentic selves.
Right. We're going to
And
have those days and it's okay. It doesn't
yes,
make us a bad person. You got to give yourself some grace. We are not going to be on top of the world every single day. There's going to be days that we're down. You know, and in that I have learned because I used to take that grumpiness out on my family, especially my husband then. I don't do that anymore.
yes,
I
yes,
know. I go do something to get that energy out of me so I don't take it out
yeah,
on anyone. I'm going for a
yeah,
walk.
yes. And we can do that with our kids. We can say, um, I can see you're not having a good day. Maybe do you want to go out for a walk or do you want to go exercise or what can we do that's going to lift your spirits, make you feel good, right? Instead of shaming them for doing so, getting angry or being upset, like instead of
Hmm.
shaming them, you can validate them. So yeah, you're struggling right now, and let's do something that's going to lift you up. What would you like to do?
Right.
Right?
You, here's the bottom line. This is what you're saying, and I love this, and it's so true, is that we need to teach our children how to become adults, right? We know that. And what you're doing is you are actually teaching them how to manage their emotions. Like you said, when they're feeling down or they're not feeling right, validating them, not making them, not punishing them, and helping them to find ways to work through that. Because
Yes.
again, what happened with us, I'm sitting here thinking about this, it's so crazy, is that this is how we were treated. We
Yes.
became adults and then we were expected to just be able to know how to do things in life. And what we did is we did what we were taught
Yes.
and we carried that over. And what our job as parents is to take these little babies and raise them up to be adults and teach them all along the way how to manage everything in their life. That's our job as parents. I
Exactly.
failed. I did fail. I admit
Yeah.
I failed. I recognize that. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things I was successful in, but there's areas that I failed in. But that is the bottom line. We are teaching these little babies to become adults,
Yes. Yes.
healthy
Yes.
adults.
Yes. Yeah. And I just want to I want to help you out here, Lisa. I wouldn't say fail. I would
Okay,
say,
thank
okay,
you.
I would say like because we're all in the process of learning because society has always said you got to control your kids. Why is your kid having a
Right.
temper
The
tantrum?
pressure is also on us.
So much pressure. And then our parents didn't learn this. They didn't know this. And so we're all works in progress. Like I'm
For
not
sure.
100% good all the time. There's times when I make a mistake and I overreact and then I have to apologize, right?
Go clean up that mess.
Yeah, I say, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry. Like mom's
Hmm.
stressed right now." Right? But that's the thing is that we're always striving and learning and working, and we're okay to be humble with our children. We're okay to say, well, yeah, mom screwed up. Like she shouldn't have yelled at you. Sorry, honey. Right? And that is so powerful in a kid's mind because then they're also given the message, I can screw up and it's okay. Like
Right, right.
I can still be loved, and I can apologize. I can make reconciliation with the person I hurt, and it'll still be okay. Our relationship will still survive,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's so powerful. And then the last thing I was going to say is, when we come from childhood pain, we tend to personalize our children's behavior. So we
Mm.
make it about us. So
Oh, yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this, right? Like my son was he was misbehaving. I was a teacher at the time, and I was teaching at the school where my son went to school. And then he was in the office one day, and I was like, "Why is he in the office? What did he do? Why is he getting in trouble?" Like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed, right? This is my school.
My child shouldn't be doing that. I'm a teacher.
Child doing that. I was so personalizing everything, right? And then I realized he's his own separate being that is not has nothing to do with you. And if he made a mistake, if he misbehaved, then he's the one that's accountable for that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not a reflection on my parenting or me. It's just something he's going through. Maybe he was having a tough day. I don't know. Maybe I need to find out what happened,
Right.
right?
It's
And
an opportunity to engage with him and work with him on what's going on.
exactly. And so I tell parents, we we know that we are coming from childhood pain when we're personalizing our children's behavior. Uh, if they swear at you, and this happens with teenagers, okay, they just get mad when they swear, okay, like sometimes it
I hate
happens.
you.
No, I've had my child say that too, right? I hate you. And I know it's a moment of crisis. They're in crisis right now. And it's
Right.
not about you. So don't make it about you. You're making it about you because of your childhood pain, right? And
Right.
so once we recognize that, once we say, okay, hold on a second, it's not about me. When we make it about us, it doesn't actually help our children.
No, it becomes a fight.
Exactly. It becomes a fight. And you're personalizing, you're actually causing conflict in the relationship that you have with your children, right? So a better way would be to like just breathe, tell yourself it's not about me, what would be helpful for my child right now. And then have the conversation. Honey, like you swore at me and you're not that's not like you. You don't
Hmm.
normally swear at me, right? Are you frustrated with something? Did I do something that really upset you, offended you? Like, what happened? How come that you did that? And let your child speak. Like, you're always nagging me, mom. And like give them a safe space to really tell you what's going on. And don't personalize. If they say that you're nagging, okay, you got to say, okay, yeah, I'm nagging.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
own it. It's okay.
I need to stop that. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was nagging. I nag you because I'm scared. It's not about you. It's because of my own parent fear.
And it's interesting when your child is saying this stuff, it's not right or wrong, it's their perception. It's
Nice.
their perception. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, mom, you're wrong. It just means what they're really saying is my perception is you're nagging me all the time. I feel like you're nagging me all the time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so what we can't do as parents is dismiss that. We can't do that with other people. We can't dismiss how they're feeling and how they're perceiving it. It's their reality.
Yes. Exactly. And if they are feeling your tension or feeling that you're fearful and it's bothering them,
Hmm.
then they need to tell you that. And then you need to look at yourself and say, okay, maybe the way I'm approaching things is not helpful for my child. And then also ask your child, okay, so yeah, okay, I recognize that I'm nagging a lot. I'm sorry about that. But so, honey, what can I do instead? Because I'm worried that sometimes it's about homework, right? I'm worried that you have an assignment due. next week and you haven't even started.
Mm-hmm.
So I know like it's your responsibility, but as a parent, I want to see you be successful. So what can I do to help you instead of nagging?
Mm-hmm. Right. And you're helping your child how to solve a problem. You're showing him or her how to solve a problem. They
Hmm.
don't know. Remember, they're born blank.
Yes, they
They're
are.
born blank, and they're little narcissists because the world revolves around them when they're little, and
Yeah,
that's all they know. And we have to enlighten them.
absolutely. And when you ask the question, then they you get buy-in from them. They're gonna stop and they're gonna say, okay, so mom's wants to know how she can be helpful. Hmm. And they're gonna think about it. They're gonna think, okay, so mom, maybe you could like set a timer that I do 30 minutes a day to get the project done or whatever. And you can be like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. I can do that. So, but see, because it came from them, there's gonna be buy-in. And
Right.
that's the problem with teenagers is if you're telling them, they're resistant. But if it's coming from them, it was their idea, then they're going to be like, yeah, I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, because the teenage years is where they really, really start spreading their wings. And this is where they really are transitioning from being a child and moving into adulthood. And
Yes,
so there's going to be pushback, and that's
yes,
normal. And we need to work with that and show them how to properly push back
exactly, exactly.
in a
Yes,
healthy way that's going to be beneficial, that you can have a conversation with them and negotiate with them and come to a conclusion and come to something that works for everybody. Because how, again, if you don't teach them that, if we aren't teaching our kids this stuff and they turn 18 years old, what happens when they go off into the world? They're going off into the world without knowing how to resolve a conflict, how to express their voice, how to express their feelings, their emotions, how to find a safe place for them to do. Like all of this, we need to teach them.
absolutely. Absolutely. And then we're going to have like generations of people that are emotionally intelligent and confident.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's going to change the world if we
Mm-hmm.
change our parenting.
Absolutely. And yeah, and how we raise these kids. And, I'm telling you, like my son and my daughter-in-law too, with my little grandson. I mean, it's so sweet watching my son because he's so excited as my grandson gets older because he can't wait to have a relationship with him.
Yes.
He wants to engage with them, and he's just, it's like it's a little frustrating for him right now because he can't do that quite yet. It's
Yeah.
it's getting there, but it's so exciting to see that. And I think that was some of what I taught him. And that's the relationship that we had, because I'm not kidding. The minute they put him on me when he was born, I made commitments to him. One of them was I would never lie to him and I would always be there for him. And I've
Wow.
always done that. And I even reminded him recently, like, look, I'm here for you, honey. You can say anything to me. I will always be honest with you. And, he's in his 30s and we still have that relationship. So I did some things pretty
Absolutely.
good, I think.
You did. Give yourself a pat, Lisa. Good for you. Absolutely. You have
Just
to
have to
take.
own my mistakes as I recognize them.
And then you also reconciled with him. You
Yeah.
apologize, right? That's huge. Like for us that experience childhood pain, when we get an apology from our parents, that is huge. That is
Yeah.
big,
I
right?
never got that. So yeah, it is. I actually, the only one I really confronted was my dad. And my dad's response to the abuse was he went and hid, like physically. He literally got up and he would go hide when my brother would act up at times. And so I remember trying to have a conversation. This is when we were adults. I mean, I was in my 30s. My son was born. And I remember like I was confronting him. I was being kind about it. I was asking. I was like, how come you didn't protect me? Like I was being abused. And you know what? He couldn't even look at me. I was sitting on the couch on one end, he was on the other. I was facing him, he was facing away, and he couldn't even look at me. And I saw his bottom, his chin and his bottom lip quiver, and he couldn't even acknowledge it. I never even got an acknowledgement. And I know, there's a part of me, I understand that he had his own trauma, his own pain, and he was constantly triggered and he lived his life in complete fear. You know, I have, and I'm working through that forgiveness with him.
Yes. Yes. You
Because that
forgive for
forgiveness
you.
is for me. It's for
Yes.
me. Yeah.
Absolute.
Yeah.
100%.
Not
100%.
has nothing to do with him. It doesn't diminish what he did. It's just to relieve me from having the anger, the bitterness, the resentment that it could go to. I don't want to
Mhm.
live with that.
Yeah. I think you got to feel good that you confronted because you got it out.
I did.
You had a voice when you had no voice as a
True.
child. And now you can release it. Like, here's the thing. We're not voicing to change the other person. We're
Ooh.
we're we're voicing so that we heal, so that we can let it
Mhm.
out, and give ourselves what we didn't get as kids. Like, I have a voice now, and I
Mhm.
want you to know this was my experience. This is how I felt. And
Mhm.
then we release any, because we're not here to change other people. We're only here to change ourselves.
Correct.
So we release whatever their response is because it's not about us. And when we feel good that that little child that experienced the pain, you gave that child a voice.
I
You
did.
gave that child some power, right?
I did. I did. It was really painful not having him. I'll be honest. I mean, it was really painful for him not to acknowledge, even, I mean, he didn't even acknowledge, let alone validate or apologize, or, it was really painful at the time. I get it. Yeah. And you're right. You're right. I understand where it came from. I don't stick with that because then I'm kind of dismissing, his behavior.
Yes.
Um, but it's that thing of, I'm now really seeing my dad for who he really was,
Yes.
and all the ugly. And he was he was who I was closest with.
Yeah.
So it's deconstructing what my
Yes.
beliefs were.
Yes. Yes. I because I work closely with teenagers, and there's a lot of bullying that
Oh
happens.
yeah,
And I tell them that people who hurt other people are people who are hurting.
absolutely, 100%.
And if you recognize that, if you understand that, then you know it's not about you at all.
Right. It takes away that personal,
Mhm.
feeling that, oh, they're attacking me. No, hurting people hurt people. I say that all the time, and it's
Yeah.
absolutely true because, excuse me, when I look back on my days when I was hurting all the time, I was living in pain.
Yeah.
I did hurt people. I didn't want to. I really
Yeah.
didn't want to, but I did.
Yeah.
And now I don't. And when I do and I recognize it, I own it.
Yes. Because you're healing. You've healed,
Mhm, mhm. I've come a
right?
long way. I'm on my healing
Yeah.
journey. I've come a long way. I'm still, I'll never be off the healing journey until I go to heaven. But,
Me too. Me too.
here on earth, it just is what it is. But it's
Exactly.
great. I mean, I'm at a place now where I'm not afraid of growing and healing,
Yes.
and it gets really uncomfortable, and I don't always like it, but I know it's important. And I know it's only for a season. I'm going to work through it.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well,
It's worth it. It's
it
worth it.
is. It's absolutely worth it. And I've said this before, when the first time in your healing journey that you feel that taste of freedom, or that taste of healing, it becomes almost addictive. Like you feel so good, and you didn't realize it could feel that good. And that is what made me seek after more and more and more and more,
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
replacing that pain.
Yes. And filling your life with healthy people
Hmm.
is so important too. You can't heal when you continue to surround yourself with unhealthy people.
Absolutely. And I did that. That was what I did. I was unhealthy. I was surrounded by unhealthy. I went through a transition of not having those people in my life. And it was a time where I was alone and had to, but it was good because it was me doing some deep healing. And
Mhm.
now I've got amazing people in my life, and an amazing support system.
Awesome. So good.
Yes, and that is for everybody too. That is not because I'm somebody special. That is for everybody out there. And that is why I do this podcast, is to get this information out there to help people heal and have a better life and shorten their suffering.
Yes. Yes. Recognize when the relationship's not healthy have a boundary with it. Say, maybe this isn't a good relationship in my life because it doesn't add or help me heal. It just keeps re-traumatizing me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a choice. I'm an adult and I have a choice. I don't have to have unhealthy relationships in my life anymore.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's empowering.
It really is. So what would you like to leave our listeners with?
Okay, so
A
I
lot. And tell
I
us how we could reach out, how our
yeah,
audience could reach you.
okay, so I have a website now, annalvarez.com. And on my website, there's the links to my show. I also have a podcast, Masterful Parenting, and a link to my program, Masterful Parenting Program. It's a boot camp. I think it's 9 weeks, 9 lessons, a video, and also I give you support when you go through the program, where you will learn where's your childhood pain, what is it, how do you heal from it, and how to communicate and connect with your kids in healthy relational ways. The whole thing is relational parenting because our parents were not relational with us, and so we have to
Yeah.
learn that. And so that's my mission, is like really to help parents to not repeat the cycle of pain that they lived with, and to raise children that are healthy, raise them in a healthy way so that they know what healthy relationships are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all on my website, and I'm also on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram, and I have a Facebook group as well. So all the links are on my website and
And I'll have
LinkedIn.
all the links as well for you.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so everybody can reach out. I am happy to help parents. That's my mission.
I'm literally going to send your website to my kids. I am. I seriously, I think it will be wonderful. I know my son and daughter-in-law, I think that they would really get into it for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I'm
get
going
the
to
word
send it to
out.
him. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. This is great information. And I love that you're the second guest I've had on here that helps parents. And I want to have more of that. I just think it's wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. It's been an honor to be on your podcast. Thank you so much for the opportunity.